What up, Kiro fam? So today's video, I want to talk about a comment in regards to how do we stop being so hard on ourselves. And I want you to understand that I think there's a difference between being hard on yourself and beating yourself up. Because I think it's important to be hard on yourself and discipline yourself. But I think there's a difference between, beating yourself up and talking negatively down on yourself when you do end up falling short of your expectations, or you make a mistake, or you fail in an aspect of life. I think there's a difference, because I myself sometimes struggle with discipline. I struggle with staying consistent. I struggle with procrastination or getting things done. And so sometimes I really got to be honest with myself and tell myself, yo, Will, you not really giving it your best. Yo, Will, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I think that's being hard on myself. That's being real with myself in order to get myself back on track. Because if not, that I think we make excuses for ourselves in the things that we do and almost create almost like a sense of it's okay for us to not be giving our best to our life. I think when we talk negatively to ourselves, that's us saying, oh, you're a failure. That's us critiquing or criticizing ourselves negatively and saying, oh, we're not able to doing this, and just getting mad and frustrated at ourselves. And I think a lot of us tend to talk negatively or down or bad to ourselves because we do a lot of comparison. But we also do a lot of comparison. We have high expectations. We have high standards. We feel a lot of pressure from society. We feel a lot of pressure from our parents and their expectations of us. Like, there's so many different things that are factor into why we critique and talk down and talk negatively to ourselves, and why we feel we have to constantly be hard on ourselves. And I've had to realize that I had to make space for my mistakes. And if you guys have my hoodie, you know that on the back of it, it says built off mistakes. And where that comes from is giving myself, learning to really forgive myself and give myself grace for not having it always figured out, not always making the right decisions, and giving myself the space to truly learn and grow. Because I realized that in life, like, the more you try and grow is the more you're gonna see yourself failing. And in the moments that we face failure is where we have to really be our best friend, because we have to understand sometimes that we're truly giving life our best. And sometimes our best isn't enough. Sometimes we don't have it all figured out, meaning that sometimes we have to learn certain lessons. Sometimes we have to go through certain experiences. And if you know anything about me, you know that I've made so many mistakes in my past, especially in certain relationships with certain people, to where had I not shown up for myself in a loving way, I could have really put myself in a place of consistent regret, consistently just feeling bad about my past, consistently critiquing myself in a negative way. And if I didn't have that compassion, if I didn't have that grace for myself to understand that, some lessons are going to cost me certain things I love, certain opportunities, certain experiences that go negatively, in order for me to learn them and understanding, like, all I could truly do is learn how I want to move forward. But I think we get so hard on ourselves because we tend to compare. We tend to feel like we need to be at this specific place in life by this specific time, or we feel like we're falling behind. Because I know for myself, like, I fell into this because, if you don't know, for the past 3 years, it's almost been 3 years since I started making content creation. I started in June of 2022, and I started posting pretty much every single day on Instagram back in about October or November of 2022. And so that's 2.5 years, almost 3 years where I've been making content. And if you don't know, I upload every single day on Instagram. And that really comes from a place of feeling like I'm falling behind, feeling like if I don't upload, if I'm not consistently putting out content, if I feel like I'm not doing what I need to be doing, then I'm falling behind in the world, and I won't be successful, or I won't become the person who I need to be, and that I need to spend every single day trying to get 1% better, or every single day needs to be centered around self-improvement. And I fell into that trap for a while, and I'm really just now learning to get out of it, because I used to be a person, I used to go to sleep at 12, 1, 2 o'clock, and then try and get up at 7 a.m. Or at one point, it was even 5 and 6 a.m. and then go to the gym. And I was tired coming home from the gym, and I could barely stay awake throughout the day because I was so locked in on always trying to make the most out of my days. And I had to realize, like, I'm a human. And my life and my world can't consistently revolve around self-improvement, constantly revolve around consistently growing, and that you're only going to burn yourself out when you hold yourself to these high expectations of always consistently going at 100%. And again, you have to understand that there is a process to life. Sometimes we automatically assume that we can get to where we're supposed to be within this short amount of time, or that we'll be able to have it all figured out within this short amount of time. And that's simply not realistic. Like, growth is a slow progress, and sometimes it doesn't even feel like we're growing because we don't notice it right now, but sometimes we don't notice our growth until it pays off. Sometimes we don't notice how much we've grown as a person until we see our results. And I think sometimes we attach ourselves too much to our results. So we're looking at where we are now, and we're automatically assuming we're not doing good enough, or we're not heading in the right direction, or that we're a failure, or that we're not good enough, all because we don't have that high paying job yet, all because our business isn't rolling in the right direction. And again, we have to understand that it's not, and we have to understand that it's not these destinations or these materialistic results or materialistic objects that deem us as good enough, that deem us as living life in the correct way, or deem us as, we're on the right track. And I think it's also important to understand that sometimes we're so hard on ourselves because we're not confident in ourselves. I've learned that the more I've grown, the more I become confident in believing that, I'm on the right track, or that where I'm headed is going to be, me being successful, or me being the person I envision myself to be, or just somebody at least. I know for a fact I'm going to be good. It may not be the vision I see because God might have a different plan for me, but I know I'm going to be good. I know I'm not going to be on the streets because every single day I'm showing up in my life, continuously moving forward. Like, there's never a day where I'm truly just laying around, or I'm not doing anything. Now I'm not saying to not have those days, but I'm saying that I'm not consistently not showing up in my life. Like, I consistently, am making progress every single day, or I'm consistently allowing myself to be on the right track. That's not saying don't go have fun with your friends on the weekend, don't go spend time with your family. That's saying, who do I show up as consistently in my life? Am I showing up as a lazy person? Am I constantly pushing things off? Am I not giving 100% to myself? Am I not showing myself self-love? Am I not taking care of my body? Because how you consistently do those things throughout a week, throughout a month, throughout a year, that will allow you to know where you're on track to be. And so if you're someone who's in school and you're handling your business in school, you handle your resumes, you're doing the internships, you're in the process. You're in the process of heading in the right directions. And I don't want you to allow those low moments where, you may fail, you may not get the grade you want, to allow it to define who you are as a person. Allow it to define you as, oh, you're not on the right track, or oh, you're not doing good enough. Because it's not realistic, and it's not a realistic expectation to hold yourself to. And where you are now doesn't define where you're going to be. That's not a projection of where you're going to be, because sometimes where we are now is just where we are now. It's a moment in time. And again, we have the ability to change. We have the ability to grow from where we are now. And so if you're consistently growing, if you notice you've been growing throughout the years, you notice your improvement within yourself, how you've gotten better habits, how you've gotten a better mindset, how you've gotten better with your work, like, you're making progress. And don't allow yourself to hold yourself to the standard of perfection in a world where nobody's perfect, to allow yourself to feel like, oh, you're not good enough, or oh, you're not on the right track. But I also want you to understand that it's actually important that you fail, because sometimes we think failure is a representation of what we're capable of, when failure is really just a part of growth. If I always say that if you're not failing in life, then you aren't trying, because if you aren't stepping outside of your comfort zone and doing things new, then you won't fail in life. But if you're actually stepping outside of your comfort zone and you're trying to do new things that will allow you to grow in life and take you to a next level, you should expect failure. You shouldn't expect yourself to have it all figured out. And so don't hold yourself to that standard of having life completely figured out when you're really just in the process of growth, because we expect we think we're so much smarter than we really are, because sometimes we think we've experienced life so much and we've been through so much that we should have it all figured out, or that we do have it all figured out. And when we develop that mindset, it's almost like we are so hard on ourselves when we don't meet that expectation, or we find out that we aren't as good as we thought we were, or that we think we should be. And we've really been trained to be critical on ourselves for our mistakes, whether it was in school, whether it was it being disciplined in our household, whether it was the expectations people put on us. We've been taught to criticize or think negatively when we do fall short of our expectations, or when we do fail in life, or when we do make a mistake. And I've had to grow out of that mindset that mistakes don't mean, you need to be hard on yourself. Mistakes don't mean that you need to, talk down on yourself. It just means that you have areas in which you're imperfect, areas in which you can grow, areas in which you can become stronger. And those areas will always be there. And it's so important to understand that, because you're going to constantly fail throughout life. You're going to constantly make mistakes. And you can't allow every mistake or every failure you face in life to be a moment where you live in regret, or be a moment where you feel so down and you feel so sad and you're so angry with yourself and frustrated with yourself, because some things truly aren't that big of a deal. And I say this as someone who, again, like, struggles with consistency, because for the longest time, I saw myself BSing with my life. I saw myself not truly giving it my all. And some of you guys might be like, well, Will, you don't seem like you struggle with consistency. You consistently upload on YouTube. You consistently do Instagram or whatever. You post every single day. You seem like a pretty disciplined person. Well, that's because I constantly put out content. I lack discipline in other areas, because I'm a person who's learning time management and things like that, and learning to not get so consumed in this to where I can make space for other things. And I was one of those people where it was like, I used to get so involved in self-improvement to the point I didn't make room for anything else. And I felt bad about myself for making room for anything else. And I really had to learn that if we're constantly just caught up in the journey, we'll never be able to enjoy where we actually are, because eventually we're going to get so far ahead in our journey to the point that we look back on our life and it was like, dang, I didn't even get to experience all of these moments that passed by because I was so worried about where I was going. I was so worried about getting to my destination. I was in such a rush and a hurry to get to somewhere that I wasn't even ready for at that moment in time. And so it really just comes from a place of trust and confidence of saying, hey, this is where I am right now. How I'm showing up as every single day in my life has me on pace to get to where I want to be. I understand that I'm going to make mistakes, failures, and there's things I got to work on. There's things that, there's different hurdles I'm trying to overcome within myself. I'm holding myself back in fear in certain areas of my life. Like, there's so many different things we could always point out as to why we should be hard on ourselves. And that's exactly why we need to give ourselves grace, because if we focus on all the negatives of ourselves, we'll view ourselves as a negative person, which will then make us feel bad about ourselves for being a negative person, which really just leads to us beating ourselves up. And so you really have to zoom out of your own life and be like, okay, I understand I have flaws. I understand I have imperfections, but I can only handle these things one by one. I can only do one thing at a time. I can't also be in school while expecting myself to become a millionaire, because that's simply just not realistic. I can't expect myself to be in school and be in the process of figuring it all out while also have my complete life figured out and set in stone, knowing what car I'm gonna have, knowing my wife, knowing my family. Like, there's certain things where it's just you got to do one thing at a time, because we're in such a hurry and such, it's almost like we put ourselves in an unnecessary race and on an unnecessary time limit that makes us feel like we're falling behind when we're really not, because we're so caught up in comparison. And these 0.01% of 21-year-olds who are already successful or already at a certain place in life, or these 0.01% of college students who completely have their life figured out and they already got their job, they already got all these different internships, all these different opportunities, they did all this networking, and they know exactly what their vision is and where they're going. Like, it's simply unrealistic. And you have to understand that everybody is running their own race. Each of us are on our own journey, and we can't expect our journey or our race to look exactly like everybody else's. Because I've had clients who have asked me, or people who have asked me in my DMs, they're like, I'm caught up in comparison. How do we stop comparison or comparing? And one, you have to get out of social media, but also you have to understand who you are as a person and where you are in your journey. Because many of us, I mentioned this before, many of us, our life and our story looks so much different. My story looks different from a 15-year-old story who might be watching this video right now. I know what I was doing at 15 years old, and it wasn't self-improvement. And so therefore, I might be getting off to a later start than him when it comes to self-improvement and understanding mental health. And I can't critique myself for that because I know everything I had going on when I was 15. I know everything, all the trauma, all the different insecurities I had. And so I had to learn to give myself grace and not be so regretful for not knowing then what I might know now. Because again, we're all on our own journey. And you have to focus on running your own race because so many of us are caught up on trying to put ourselves in a heat or put ourselves in a race that we don't even have the stamina for, that we aren't even fast enough for. We're so caught up on just keeping up with people and getting to the finish line that we're not even asking ourselves as if that's what we're ready for, if we even got the conditioning for that, if we've even trained for that. Some of us trying to run a race that we haven't even trained for, that we haven't even truly got the experience to understand what it even takes to be able to run that race well. It's like expecting yourself to know how to become a doctor or know how to become a psychiatrist, a therapist, and you only on your sophomore year of college. Like you haven't even finished the 4 years of college and learning those things to even be able to have that expectation for yourself to have all these different things figured out. And little do we know that we figure it out along the way. So many of us, I remember myself, I used to hold myself to this expectation of thinking I needed to have it all figured out before I got started, until I realized that in getting started is when you start to figure out the things and figure out the answers to the questions that you think you needed to have in order to start. And so it's like we're worried about all these different things, like, oh, how many views are going to get, what equipment we need, what degree we need, what informations we need to know. And it's like, sometimes you just need to get started and you figure out those things along the way as you step into certain experiences and certain spaces, and you realize that you're a lot more capable than you previously might thought. And what I really want you to understand in this video is stop allowing your results that you're getting right now to determine the results you're going to get moving forward. We automatically assume that we only get one chance to prove ourselves, or that we only get a couple chances before we have to say, oh, I can or can't do this. Not realizing the importance of learning in life, the importance of reflecting in life. If I got so caught up in the views and how my videos look compared to other people when I first got started, I would have given up months ago, possibly a year or two ago, because I wouldn't have been where I wanted to be. And I would have been looking so into my immediate results and that instant gratification, and looking for that instant gratification, that I would have been like, oh, because my views are low, or because I don't have this amount of subscribers, or because this amount of people aren't liking the video, oh, it must not be for me. And I've realized that, you got to be willing to learn. You got to see that vision for yourself and trust it and understand that I just got to be diligent. I got to truly put in 100% effort and do this a certain amount of time before I can even say I truly tried. Sometimes we try things once or twice and say, oh, well, I tried, it's not for me. Not realizing that, no, you're not going to have it always figured out on the first time. You can't expect yourself to know automatically what to do. Sometimes it's going to take you failing, making mistakes in order to learn certain lessons, in order to determine how you can move forward and get the result that you want for yourself. And I understand it because, again, in school, we weren't taught or given second chances. It was, oh, you got this grade on your test? Well, that's the grade that's going in the grade book. No try again, no second chance, no, oh, can I make corrections? Oh, can I learn again or go back to study and, correct my mistakes? It was none of that. And so we've been trained to think, oh yeah, there's no second chance in life. And so we just need to pay attention to the immediate results, and that will reflect or tell us whether we can or can't do something. When in reality, no, because that's an unrealistic expectation, because how can I ever know something that I've never truly done before? How can I expect myself to always be doing things in life at 100% and 100% confidence when I've never even stepped into that space before? And so you have to learn to truly give yourself grace, truly learn to be patient with yourself and understand you're in the process of figuring it out. And as long as you're taking those steps every single day, you'll have that confidence in yourself to say, you know what, I'm on the right path. How I'm showing up as in my life every single day. I know I ain't being lazy. I know I'm not wasting time. I know I'm doing the things in which I should be doing. Even though I might be going out having fun and enjoying life, I'm still doing the main things. I'm still keeping the main things, and I'm still moving forward in the right direction. Then you should really have nothing to worry about. I've eliminated a lot of self-doubt from my life, because what am I doubting? Why should I doubt who I'm consistently showing up as who I in my life? I have no reason to not succeed because I know I'm consistently doing the things I need to do in order to become a successful person. Even though, again, it might not be in the way that I want it, but I know it's going to be in some type of way. And the last thing I want to leave you with is that it's not about how fast you get there, but the fact that you get there at all. Some of us, again, are so caught up in trying to run a race that's not for us because we're trying to get there the fastest, not realizing that it's not about which race you're in or how fast you get there. You just want to cross the finish line. You just want to be able to get to your destination. You just want to be able to fulfill your purpose. You just want to be able to reach your full potential and your best self. Why are you so worried about getting there at 25 years old? Why are you so worried about getting there at 30 years old? Sometimes it's going to take you to you 35, 40, but all that matters is that you get there in general. If you allow yourself to just run your own race, then you'll stop being so hard on yourself because you'll have the trust, the confidence, and just the ability to learn and reflect and determine how to move forward without feeling all this unnecessary pressure to show up as a person that you may not be ready to be. But, I appreciate and love you guys as always. Catch you guys in the next video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Peace.